taking a break.
Taking a break, yeah. Like, it just really, I mean, at least that's what I was thinking of talking
That's
about.
perfect.
You know, and saying, hey, yeah, that's right there. I've been wearing mine everywhere.
Yeah, so have I. My father-in-law bought one. I got one for the kids. Only one I didn't get one for is my wife. I was like, ooh, and I owe a couple other people I had too. Remind me, there's a guy that a potential guest that I think would be really cool to have on, but we'll talk about that after. Okay, let's see.
So taking a break.
Taking a break.
And just like.
What to do.
Just what to do, yeah. I mean, I don't even know, like, I don't even, I thought about this, you know, like, on what to do, but I haven't, like, really, like, I don't have a solid game plan to be like, this is your 5 steps to take a break. You know, you know, like,
okay.
just, it's like, I mean,
well, let's see where it goes, because I've taken breaks before with the car fire and stuff. Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
All right.
Formless way.
Formless. Here we go. We are now recording.
We're recording up there.
Do not think dishonestly. The way is in training. Become acquainted with every art. Know the ways of all professions. Distinguish between gain and loss in worldly matters. Develop intuitive judgment and understanding for everything. Perceive those things which cannot be seen. Pay attention even to trifles. Do nothing which is of no use. It is important to start by setting these broad principles in your heart and train in the way of strategy. If you do not look at things on a large scale, it will be difficult for you to master strategy. If you learn and attain this strategy, you will never lose, even to 20 or 30 enemies. More than anything to start with, you must set your heart on strategy and earnestly stick to the way. You will come to be able to actually beat men in fights and to be able to win with your eye. Also, by training, you will be able to freely control your own body, conquer men with your body, and with sufficient training, you will be able to beat 10 men with your spirit. When you have reached this point, it will not mean what. When you have reached this point, will it not mean that you are invincible? Musashi. I've been on a Musashi kick lately, and doesn't that sound like some Jedi master or just some? I mean, like he was a total badass, but like, isn't that just awesome?
It does. That's a great quote to start the morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the Formless Podcast, episode 69, I believe. I did not look that up beforehand, and I usually have that stuff all squared away. I am Dustin, and this is Tyler the Superhuman. He's back.
I'm back, yeah.
Awesome.
I had a little bit of a break and
working on movie stuff.
Movie stuff, yeah. Now, as I've talked about before, the movie is done. You know, we had our small theatrical release, and now I'm working on a bigger distribution deal for the film. The movie is done, and so now what?
Yeah. Isn't that like so like life though? Like you graduate high school and it's like, now what?
Now what?
I remember that feeling when I got married. You know, I was super excited, very happy, and then it was like, okay, now what? Like the wedding was over, the honeymoon's over. We're like just kind of sitting around staring at each other, like, what do we do now? You know, it was. It's an interesting point to be. It's like an interesting segment to be at. You're like, okay, I did all this hard work. I spent all this time and effort and money.
Now what's next?
Yeah.
You know, so that's where we're at, is figuring out the next step. And I'm working on distribution deals for the film and where I'm going to get it, and hopefully what other countries I might get it in and what other platforms. And so that's been a complete new experience to learn all that, and it's been good because it's like that Musashi quote, right? You win with the eye. You beat the man with your eye, beat your enemies with your eye. It's looking and seeing, okay, I don't know exactly what to do yet, but I'm figuring it out as I go. And I've got all these people I'm asking for advice and talking, and because distribution on a film is a totally different thing for me, totally different piece.
And was there a point where you were like, okay, I'm done now? And like, I don't, you know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, now I've got this other thing, this other mountain to climb.
Yeah. With filmmaking, especially being a producer, you're almost leapfrogging. You're halfway through one project, and then you got to start the next project. So you're always looking down the road at what's your next thing while you're halfway through the thing you're in now. And so,
well, yeah, because you got to keep that pipeline going, right?
going, yeah, and be able to. You can't just stop, make your movie, finish it, stop, and then start all over again, because that is just
the lull has got to be too long.
The lull, that's exactly it. The word I was looking for. So it's overlaps. There's overlapping, and so it's been great, and it's been super exhausting, and more big decisions have to be made, and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
I got on a film set. What was it? A couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, and I was like, it was just a short film for something around here, and I was like, man, just tell me where to set up the lights at. Like, I just want to do something simple.
I don't want to be the decision maker today.
Yeah. And so that's kind of followed me around the last couple of months, but it's been good. It's a whole new experience, and it's really taught me that you go through this, for lack of a better word, season of, okay, work, make the film, and now the film's done, and you've had the premiere, and then what? And then you've got to still get it out there.
Yeah.
To make the money back and pay the investors back, make the investors happy, so then they'll want to invest in your next movie. So yeah, it's been getting the film to this point has been a certain level of energy, and then getting from where we are now to getting it out has been another level of energy. And I've almost had to like downshift, like instead of shifting into a higher gear to get the film to all these other platforms or these other countries. And so now it's been like, shift down
and kind of like, okay, like take the foot off the gas pedal for a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I have this mode or this thing where like I do. I'm really. I'll put in a lot of work, like a lot of effort, just like go, and then I just reach a point where I'm like, okay, hold on, I got to crash for a minute and like just kind of take a breath and like look around and go, oh, there's other things in life that I need to take care of, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'll focus on like work or martial arts or the podcast, and I'll go every day, wait every minute from waking almost to like when I'm sleeping, it seems like. And then I'll do that for like a week straight or a month straight, and then I'm just like, oh, what else is going on?
Yeah. You get so tunnel vision and focused that
that like you forget that there's this whole other outside world going on,
Yeah, that's kind of where I've been at with that, and getting so hyper focused on my movie stuff. And it's great. It's what I'm called to do and what I want to do. And I've reached this point, like we were talking about just now, you reach this point where you're like, oh, I'm so exhausted.
Yeah.
I've got to pump the brakes, take the foot off the gas, and
remember that there's other things in life.
Because I've needed to take a step back and just really, slow down, and just really find the joy in the little things again.
Yeah.
Because you get so hyper focused on, making these deals. Where am I going to put the movie and all this stuff? And that not just for filmmaking. I mean, it could be anything like you were talking about. You get so hyper focused on the work or the podcast. And so I've had to take a step back and just be like, okay, I need to take a break. And just really slow down and pare down a lot of stuff in my life.
But it's funny. It's almost like I don't know about for you, but like for me, when I've hit that moment where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna coast for a minute. Like hold on, I'm still thinking. Like there's still stuff there. I'm still working on it. I'm just not as intense. Like
it's marinating, it's simmering, it's on the back burner.
Like I'll still write notes to myself about things, or I'll still like, oh, I can't forget to do this, or I got to talk to Tyler about that, or I'm still working on stuff. It's just not as like intense. Like I've turned the heat down a little bit and let it simmer for a minute, And it's like I know that I'm going to get back into it, so I don't want to shut the heat off completely. I don't want to lose that spark, but like I've got to manage some of this other stuff going on, I don't know. At least that's how it is for me.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's funny, like with there's fires going on right now, and like the one out of Chico, the park fire is huge, like almost 400,000 acres. That was almost, I think it started real close to the anniversary of the car fire.
Right.
Yeah. And so like during the car fire, we got evacuated, and we took probably 2 months off martial arts. I basically just went to work. We got evacuated. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on while that was happening. But for like the first week, I just sat, I'd go to work, and, you're worried about your house and your friends and your neighbors and their houses and everything. And then after the initial adrenaline shock wore off of that, I just found myself like staring at the TV, or like, what are we going to do? And all three of my kids are like staring at me like, are we going to have a home to go home to? And all of this kind of thing. And it was really weird. And we weren't going to martial arts at the time, just because everything was in turmoil. And I remember thinking like, I have to do something physical. Because I'm going to lose my mind, and so we were at my in-laws' house staying there, and I grabbed the bicycle. They had some mountain bikes. I grabbed the bicycle and I just started riding after I'd get home from work. And the first ride was just like around the block. And I was like, okay, that's good. I'm okay. I can function now. And then it progressively got longer and longer. And then one night I went out and I was gone for like probably 2 hours riding this bike and just finding different trails and streets to go on. And like, I remember I got home, my wife's like, are you okay? And, but it was medicine. Like it worked. It was like, oh, this is like, I need this physical activity. I need something to like keep me going. And
something simple.
Yeah. It wasn't anything like, I wasn't preparing for anything. I was getting that out, and it allowed my brain to not focus on all the garbage, and it was just kind of like a cleanse. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just like a reset button.
Yeah.
And then we, things are, thankfully our house was fine, and we got back into the home, and then it was like, okay, back at it, and it was really good. It was really good. It was a forced break, it wasn't a self-imposed thing. It was more of like oh, you can't do this right now. There was other things that I had to focus on. So, yeah.
You're like the second person recently who's mentioned that, where it was that something like that happened, where in the 2 months, when you're talking when you were sitting there watching the TV and then you had to go do something and go ride the bike, was that while you guys were still evacuated? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we were still evacuated. They didn't let us go back for, gosh, I have to look back in my journal, but I want to say it was like 2 months before we got back, before they opened the roads and let people back into the neighbors or the houses and neighborhoods and stuff. I don't recall how big that fire was, but yeah, it was tough because I mean we split in the middle of the night. We literally, I think we had a backpack, like all the kids had a backpack. My wife and I had a bag with a couple of changes of clothes because we were kind of prepared, but we weren't nearly as prepared as we should have been.
Right.
Hindsight's always 20/20. But they didn't have anything to do. They're at the grandparents' house. They had a couple of things there. They had the TV, but they didn't have like any other bicycles. They didn't have any other gear. They didn't have anything after a while, and we're just kind of staring at each other. I remember we went to a couple of game stores and stuff. We bought some board games. We played board games and cards and did that sort of thing. But we were really trying to be conscious of our money situation because we didn't know what was next. And we didn't know if we were going to have a home to go to. So it was like we didn't want to go spend money and like go out to eat a lot or any of that stuff. And it was an adjustment. But yeah, so it was completely, turned everything on its ear there. But I don't know if that was the kind of break you were talking about, but that was what I was thinking about, like this forced exile,
Well, that's a break. I mean, in this context, a break is a break is a break.
Yeah.
Even yours was a forced rather than chose, but it was still a break.
But there have been other times where I've had to okay, I can't come to the dojo for a couple of weeks. And in those times, that's when I'm like, okay, well, I can be constructive with this time, or I can just sit on the couch, and veg out.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with doing that a little bit, but for me personally, I have to have a hard stop.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to sit and watch this movie with my family, but there's a hard stop. When that movie's over, I got to do something. I've got to and that's when I'll read a book, Book of Five Rings, or I'll plan something out, or think of stuff for the podcast, or plan a lesson, or there's I personally have to have that hard stop, because otherwise, for me, once I break that habit, I'll pick up another habit somewhere, and I may not want that habit.
Right.
Then it's oh crap. Now I've got this other thing where I'm just doing that's not productive and not good for me, and so I have to be conscious of those kinds of things for myself, I know you've taken breaks for movie shoots and stuff. I remember a couple of years back, you went to Texas for 2 months or something.
Yeah, it was 10 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 10 days.
That felt longer.
Yeah, no, that was just going and working in Texas.
But you had to clean cut it. I'm leaving.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to go. I can't physically be here. So, but it's not like you just quit completely though. There's always
a return.
A return,
yeah.
But you're also, I'm sure you're an active person. You didn't just stop everything completely other than the movie stuff.
Yeah, no, you just kind of dialed it down,
Yeah.
And just minimized it. Mm-hmm. Kept the heat on, but now it's on the low. It's just barely on
just
the back.
simmering.
Just simmering, just keeping something flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like I was saying, you're the second person recently to say that going and doing something, such as bicycle pedaling, like you were saying, you would get off the couch and go pedal. Well, in the last couple weeks, I've been like helping remodel a bathroom on a house on our property that we have the couple hundred acres here locally that we go hunting on. And there's a house there from the 1920s. And so my dad and I have been going down and remodeling the bathroom in the house and getting the plumbing kind of modernized and
making it work.
Yeah, making it work. And there's just something very therapeutic about just working with tools in your hands and just tearing into drywall and just
doing the work.
And then you see how much like progression you've got done. And it's a physical. You can say, oh, that like some of the floor was rotted, and we tore it all out and surgically put in boards and have flooring, you know, in the bathroom, and then we put plywood on top of it, and then we're gonna put the nice vinyl planking in the bathroom.
Right on.
And it's just something nice to not have to think too hard. I mean, yeah, you've got to think, oh, how are we gonna do this?
But it allows you to like focus on something else.
Yeah, on something else. It's focusing on something else,
and it's almost meditative. Like for me, when I'm doing stuff like that, it's like I can like sparring, for instance. When you're sparring, you can't think about like when the bills are due, or like, oh, I need to rotate the tires on my car, or you know, whatever. Because like that's when you're gonna eat punches and kicks, right? Like you have to be immersed in what it is you're doing, and like remodeling the bathroom. If I'm doing something like that, like I have to be 100% present. Like I'm working on this, because otherwise, like my cuts won't be straight.
Right.
You know, you're not going to hit the nail correctly with the hammer. There's all of those other things. Like, and there's something to that where you're just in that moment and you're dedicated to doing this thing, where nothing else, like the rest of the world, doesn't matter at that moment. And that's therapeutic for me. It's like, oh, I've accomplished this. Or I'm working on this. And then it could be something as simple as like just vacuuming the floor, or you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be a huge project, is what I'm trying to say. It just is like a cleansing thing, you know?
Yeah, it's a way of cleansing out clogs you've got, in some areas. I've just really had to step back and go back into those simple things, and because a lot of the stuff I do with the filmmaking is it's intangible, cutting deals, a distribution deal. That's not really a tangible thing, whereas you can go out and build a house, right? And you're a contractor, you go build a house. Physical thing, you can see what you built with your house. In a movie, it's physical, right? There's a file to it, or a DVD.
But after that, when you're talking to people, it's a lot of communication.
It's just a lot of communication, exactly. So
it's a little harder to see your progress there.
Yep. Yeah. There's certain type of people that do investments, in things, and some people, real estate has always been like usually a good real investment opportunities, because you invest in a house, then you build it up, then you flip it, or whatever, you're buying and selling properties. But that's a tangible thing that you could see. Whereas a movie is like an intangible thing. It's really intellectual property, and it's
a whole nother ballgame.
It's a whole nother ballgame. So it's not really a physical thing. And so a house you can go up and touch, and you can go in.
You can live in it.
You can go in. Yeah, exactly.
You can paint it. You can remodel it. There's all these things you can do. It's like a verb.
Right?
Yeah. All the things you can do to the cloud.
To the cloud.
Yeah.
The movie, it's like a DVD that goes on the shelf, and you put years of your life into this thing, and I'm not downplaying that at all. I'm just saying you put years of your life, and then you put it on the shelf, and you're like, ooh, it goes in this little spot right there. But then also past that is it has a life of its own. Whereas all the people that saw that film, I've gotten so many texts and phone calls and messages online from people that are like, oh, hey, this moment in the film touched me. This moment in the film made my sister cry. these types of things touched people. So the film really has a life of its own that people carry with it away. Whereas a house, you build a house, and that changes the life of the people that come and live in that house, right? They have memories and everything. But as a bigger thing, it doesn't affect the world or a society or a culture in the same way that like a film could,
or a song,
or a
book, or
a book. Like, I mean, Musashi, you're reading those quotes. I mean, my gosh, that guy's lived a couple thousand years ago or whatever, however old he was, and he's still influencing us. So that had a life of its own, and that's 10 inches by about 8-9 inches.
And,
book,
and really not very long.
And not very long.
Yeah, I'm sure his actual writings were. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in here from the author, a bunch of notes and stuff. So I'm sure it wasn't. It's probably less than 100 pages all told.
Yeah, and it's distilled down to like this little thing that takes up barely any space on the shelf, but it has a big life of its own. It really goes out and changes people's lives. So anyway, so that's just kind of where I've been at is I've just having to just unplug and take a step back and be like, oh man, I put so much of my life and energy into this movie, and it's great. The payoff has been fantastic, and it ain't done. The payoff ain't done yet. I was just like, ooh, I've really got to take a step back and like self-care, like take care of myself.
These other things.
These other things in life.
Yeah, and it's a priority thing.
It's a priority.
It's funny. My dad always used to teach. Take care of your priorities first. Yeah, it's fun to go play, but like if you're playing all the time and not paying the bills, that playtime is going to be pretty short-lived.
Yeah. That's true.
And that's a lesson that he had to tell me over and over and over and over again. So thanks, Dad. But have you ever seen the thing where I don't know the story completely, but it's like it's a teacher. He talks about doing the priorities. And he's got a jar and he fills it full of gravel or rocks.
Big rocks.
And then he puts the sand in and it fills it up real quick. Or how does it work? He fills it up with sand first, then he can't put the rocks in the jar.
Right, that's the reverse.
And then he puts the rocks in first and then pours the sand in, and all the sand like fills the nooks and crannies, and you can fill the whole jar up. Yeah. It's a lesson in priorities.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of that. I've seen it a handful of times. People have shown it to me. It's pretty powerful when you see it. Yeah. If you put the sand in first, there's no room for the rocks.
Right.
And you put the rocks in first, and then put the sand. The sand will fill all of the voids.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool analogy.
That's a really good analogy. That and that's you got to take care of your priorities. And one thing, like a fruit tree, right? So like a fruit tree, when it's got fruit on it, if it doesn't get enough water and nutrients, that it'll start dropping the fruit. It'll start dropping the fruit or dropping some leaves in order to maintain the tree itself. The fruit is temporary, right? And so it just lets it drop down to the ground. But the tree's got to self-preserve itself. And so a lot of times, and that's only for like a season, right? And I actually saw that this year. We had a fig tree on our property, and I guess it wasn't getting enough water. It had these beautiful, gorgeous, big, huge figs, and it just started dropping them in the middle of summer. Yeah,
really?
And so I don't know if it wasn't because it wasn't getting enough water or the weather. We've had some weird weather.
It's strange lately.
Strange weather. But anyways,
the fire, the smoke, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that can contribute too. The analogy, that's what I was going for, is that it doesn't have enough water, so it starts dropping. And I noticed I started naturally doing that stuff in my life, like, oh, all of a sudden I'm not hanging out with this person anymore. Not because that person's not good or bad or whatever. It's just that I just don't have the energy and time to hang out and do that activity anymore. And so I just noticed I was so not so overextended, just I had reached my limits, and I was like, oh, I've reached my limits now. And I noticed that I was things, I was just starting to drop things, like almost like unconsciously, but naturally at the same time, dropping activities and just backing off and saying, "Oh, whoa, I can't do this anymore."
Yeah. Well, there's only so much room for the pie.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Exactly.
And like, you can only take so many cuts out of that before you're like, oh, there's no more left.
Yeah.
So you gotta like, okay, you gotta prioritize.
But take a step back
so,
and prioritize.
Exactly, and I think that's a critical thing. Like, for me, because there's always like so much stuff going on. Like, what are some of the things that you do when you like, okay, I have to take a break. I've got to like slow down because I'm focused on this project, or I'm focused on this movie, or whatever. What are some things you do to keep yourself on track so you don't just drop the ball completely?
That's a good question. For what I've been experiencing, it's almost like you have to take a step back, and then, but you've got to keep that lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were saying, you got to keep that heat just barely on, and just being like, I've told people, I've said like, hey, I've got to just step back and take a break from this movie stuff, or hey, and it's not just, job movie stuff. It's just, I've reached my limits of what I can do in all my extracurricular activities, and it just all kind of adds up. It wasn't, oh, the weight is on all my job with filmmaking, and now that's affecting everything else. It was more like, okay, now I've got to take care of that, and now I've got all these other activities. And I'm like, ooh, these are too much for me to all manage at once.
Yeah.
Friendships, relationships. So I've been I just told people, like for example, my girlfriend and I were doing dance lessons every week, and that was fun. It's a blast, and it's nothing to do with job. It's nothing to, it's its own thing.
And it's something you do together, and it's cool, and
it's fun,
yeah.
and it's new, and you're learning something new. But we just felt like, we were getting burned out, and we just needed a break to really appreciate it. And so we kind of told one of the assistant instructors, I said, hey, assistant instructors, I said, we just need to take a break. We're doing this too much that we just need to take a break, and we'll come back. But we got to take care of some other stuff. Yeah, we just got to take care of some other stuff. But it wasn't like completely cutting it out. It was like, okay, now I'm going to watch a video on maybe this dance here in between the breakup. You just keep that lifeline alive.
Yeah.
Keep that lifeline flowing.
That's important, I think. Because like for me, when I've had to take breaks, or when I've like for right now with my job, I'm lucky if I can get down here twice a week. Yeah. Whereas before it was like 3-4 nights a week. Like no less than 3 nights a week, and on the weekends and stuff. And now it's like 2, and it was 1 for a long time, and it was barely 1. And for me, it's like, okay, well, what am I going to? The other time is all filled up.
Right.
But there's moments where I have a free moment, or a free time. So I would like plan stuff out. I would like, I'm a list maker, and I write in my journal. So I would like, when I had free time, free moments, I was like, okay, well, when I get back, because I know I'm going to get back, these are the things I'm going to work on. This is the stuff I'm going to emphasize. Mm-hmm. This is what I want to teach. This is what I'm going to talk about. So I would like, I had this bank of stuff. A loose plan, yeah. But I had this bank of like stuff that I could pull from and go, okay, I got this moment. I'm going down Monday night, and we're going to work on this. I'm going to teach this, or I'm going to watch these videos, or I'm going to do these things. So I'm not losing as much as I would have if I just completely cut it out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, and what made me think about it a lot was like when you broke your foot.
My leg, yeah.
Or your leg, excuse me. When you broke your leg, you couldn't train, but you were still coming down here, and you were taking notes, and you were watching, and you were inactive, but you were still an active participant, if that makes sense. Like you weren't physically doing the training, but you were working the mind out. Like you know, you were still studying. You were still doing everything you could to keep that going.
They keep that going.
You know, and so yeah, you weren't 100%, but you were doing everything that you could physically do to be a part of it and to be learning and to grow and stuff. And I think that's important. It's like a marathon runner.
Yeah.
You know, marathon runners can't sprint the whole 26 miles or however long it is. It's 26 point whatever. I don't run marathons. But you don't sprint the whole thing. You can't. It's physically not going to happen. You have to pace yourself. Mm-hmm. And there's times when you speed up and there's times when you cruise. You know, you slow down and be like, okay, I got to catch my breath. I got to rest some of these muscles, but I got to keep moving. Yeah, and I think that's the important thing. Like you keep going, you keep moving. Sometimes I like to say progress is progress. You measure it in inches some days and you measure it in miles than others.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And as long as you are progressing, you're still progressing. And I think that's a mindset. Like you have to think that way. At least for me, I have to think that way, because if I don't, when I'm only progressing in inches, I will get depressed.
Yeah.
Because I'll be like, oh well, look at all that progress Tyler's making, right? He's kicking ass. He's doing all of this stuff, and here I am making my little inch mark. You know, if I look at it that way, I'll quit.
Yeah.
And that was a hard pill for me personally to swallow. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard that.
Yeah. And like specifically speaking about martial arts, you can't compare. It's not me versus Tyler. It's not me versus anyone else. It's me versus me.
Yeah.
And it's a totally self-indulgent thing to sound it out. It's self-indulgent. But the goal is to become better. Right? The goal is to get better. And I want to be better, because being better at that makes me a better human being all around. Mm-hmm. I'm a better father, a better husband, better all around. And so I want to continue to progress. And some days I have to understand, like some days I'm only going to progress a couple inches. Some days I'm going to make leaps and bounds. But I have to look at it that way. Mm-hmm. I have to look at it as I made progress. I'm working towards that. What that is right now, some days I don't even know what it is, but I'm still progressing because I'm working. And as long as I do that, and as long as I think that way, then I'm happy and positive. But if I think the other way and go, oh, well, Hunter's doing all this stuff, then I downward spiral.
Yep. Yeah.
So one of the things that I do for me is to like keep a log, keep notes, and like of things to do when I don't have that heat up all the way and I'm boiling. When I've got it down to a simmer, I'll make lists, checklists, and notes, and like all the things that when I turn that heat back up, now I have this whole bank of stuff that I can. Oh, we're gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do that, and so that helps. That helps me.
That's a good plan.
Yeah,
that's a good plan.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on
No. What do you think then? So I've always heard it's better to write stuff down because it gets it off your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got something bugging you, you write it down in your journal, you write it down on a piece of paper, then it's put somewhere that you don't have to remember it. Usually when those things are bugging us is because we're trying to remind ourselves and remember.
Well, yeah. So absolutely. First of all, if there's something like if I'm stressed, write it down. And then I try and take care of the things I can control. There's obviously, in life, there's tons of stuff that you can't control. And sometimes stress is part of that. But like writing down all of the things that are bugging me, and then just go through the thing and be like, okay, I can take care of this. I cross that off, and then go to the next thing. I can't take care of that. Can't. No. Yes, I can take care of this. Cross that off and take care of it. Don't just cross it off, but take care of it. And the amount of stress that alleviates is tremendous. It doesn't cure everything. Like, it's not a cure-all, but it definitely makes me feel better about things. Because then it's like I'm doing something towards it instead of just sitting there crying about how hard life is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's like, if I was to give somebody like the key to life, that would be one of them. Like, I think that's an important one that more people should be taught or learn or discover or whatever. And I don't know where I got that from, but I don't know what the diagnosis is, but my brain is always like, for two reasons. My brain is going 100 miles a minute. I'm always thinking about stuff, and like I've got all these other things going on, and it's, I don't know if it's ADHD or whatever, or if I just drink too much caffeine, but I'm always like, I've got this stuff. It's like having the TV turned all the way up, and like the radio going, and a conversation happening. All this
multitasking.
This just chaos inside here, and one of the ways that I make order of that is to make lists of stuff. And I do a lot of driving for work, and I'll pull over and like write down stuff, because otherwise I'll
forget.
Well, I'll forget, and two, I'll lose my mind because I've just got like all of this stuff going on, and then I'll be like, oh crap, what was that? Oh no, and so like I've got a habit of like pulling over and jotting something down or texting somebody or and it manages some of that chaos for me, like to just have something I can go back on and be like, oh, this wasn't as important as I thought about, or this, oh, that's a good idea. I need to dig into that a little, dig into that a little deeper. It just manages that whole thing, and it's a way to keep the fire lit,
without letting it go completely out.
Yeah, because it's so much harder to get it started again once you've stopped. Like, if you just stop cold turkey, at least for me, it's like it's hard to find that
jump started.
Yeah, you really got to push, and for me, like, I can't let that fire get down too low. Like, if I'm gonna take my foot off the gas for a little bit, like it's something I want to continue with, then I have to, like, I always got to keep that little simmer going, and so
a little bit of heat,
just enough to keep me going. All right, I know that's there, it's over here right now, but I'm gonna get back to it. I got to take care of these other priorities. I got to take care of this other stuff, but I got my eye on this, I don't know. That's for me. I don't know if that works for anyone else, but it does for me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like, I gotta make a list.
Yeah,
it gets it off your mind.
Yeah,
and it puts it down in a place
where, like, it's organized, and like I can go back to
reference it.
Yeah.
No, so that sounds like a good plan.
Well, I don't know if it is, but like I've read. Have you ever read On Writing by Stephen King?
No, but I know the book.
Phenomenal. It's good. He talks about, there's a story in there where he talks about when he was a little kid, one of these things that like he just remembers. He was with his uncle or his grandfather or somebody, and they were going to go fix a window that was stuck, or it wasn't latching, something with a window, something on the house. And he's just like, I don't even know, I can't remember if he was even in school at that point, but he remembers like walking out with his uncle or whatever, and They go to the garage. He grabs this great big toolbox, walks all the way back to the window, opens it up, pulls out a screwdriver, tightens the screw or the latch or whatever, puts the screwdriver back, puts it away, and puts the toolbox away. And he's like, why'd you do that? Why didn't you just go grab the screwdriver? And he's like, you have to have your tools with you because you don't know what else. There might have been something else wrong. Maybe there was a nail that was backing out of the wood. Maybe some of the siding's coming off. Maybe, there might be something else there. And I have all of my tools with me. And he said that was a pretty pivotal lesson for him. And that, like, you have to have your tools. Whether you're a house painter or you don't just go paint a house and bring your brush, right? Like you bring your paint, you bring your drop cloths, you bring your masking tape, you bring your ladder, you bring everything with you. So you have it. You may not even need it, but you have it. And it saves you a trip, every
back.
Going back and forth. And anyway, he related that to writing. And like you bring all of your tools with you when you go to write, and all your grammar rules, all of your stuff that you need, your typewriter, your water, your pen, your recorder, your files, all of this stuff that you need to bring that with you. And that, like, just because you take a break doesn't mean you need to abandon all of your tools, right? Like you can still take those with you. You can still hold on to a piece of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that relates quite, but that was just
perfectly.
what I was like thinking about at the moment right then and there.
That's perfect.
No, it's a really good book, and I think it applies to a lot of stuff, not just writing. I love books that tell you a story, and like there's just oodles of stories in that book. I don't. I think that book could apply to multiple different professions, jobs, hobbies. It's a really good book.
Huh. What do you think about sometimes with doctors and surgeons? Somebody comes in and they say, we've got this bone that we can do surgery on this bone and fix it up the way it is and try to make it better, or we break it, totally break the bone. Mm-hmm. You've heard of this, right? And they break the bone, completely break it.
Oh, so it can heal
to heal properly. So it's. I mean, I guess a better analogy would be you have the foundation of a house, and so like you can, like what we're doing in the house in the bathroom, like I was talking about, going in and surgically taking out parts of the house that aren't part of the structure of the house, right? Yeah. Not like the bones, the skeleton of the house, but just like the floor. So it wasn't the structure part of the house.
It wasn't like the floor joist.
Yeah, the floor joist. That's the word I was looking for. So sometimes the doctors, they'll break a bone in order to let it just almost start over. Start over. Mm. So you're not trying to heal, like trying to work on a bone or something. That's the foundation, I guess, so to speak, is already rotted or there's something wrong with it versus like you break it and then you can reattach it.
Yeah.
What do you think about, because that's kind of been something I've been kind of considering with just certain things in my life, just like as far as like people, relationships, activities, like different things, like you just get to a certain point where like, okay, does this relationship need to continue this way, or does this hobby need to continue like this? Like I was talking for dancing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a total complete clean break, but it was like we need to pull back and like not do any of that, for right now.
Yeah.
What do you think of that concept? Like of a clean break to kind of almost reestablish a new connection.
Well,
you see the picture?
Like you need to step away so you'll still be able to enjoy it later.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's. I haven't really thought about it that way, but like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as it's a healthy thing.
It's a healthy thing, yeah.
Obviously, like if you're talking about drinking beer or doing, robbing banks or something, obviously you need to make a clean break and not do that again. But something healthy, I think it's just a matter of like taking your priorities into consideration and okay, I'm going to step back from this fun thing that I like to do a lot for a little bit so I can get some of these other priorities that need to be taken care of, because like priorities are priorities for a reason. They're detrimental if they don't get taken care of.
The rocks that go in the jar.
And like if you think about priorities as like the things that allow you to do the fun stuff, like paying your bills, for instance.
Gotta have the money to pay your bills.
You also have to have gas in the car so you can get to the dance hall.
Yep.
And you have to have tires in the car. So like if your tires are bald and you're constantly stopping at the gas station to fill them up so you can go do all the fun stuff, like you can do more fun stuff if you have good tires on the car, and if you have gas in the car, and or if you're healthy. I think you have to be disciplined enough to like maintain all those priorities, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the example of you see plumbing in a house. You're like, oh, well, there's a leak here on this PVC pipe right here, and we can patch that. Then you look down the line, and see
there's a bunch of other cracks and holes and stuff.
It's been patched a bunch of other times. You're like, man, maybe we just need to cut this whole section out and put a whole new section in, type thing. And that's kind of more along the lines of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, and then sometimes though, like all you have is the time to make that little patch.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like, okay,
true.
I've got to get back to this later.
That's a good point.
This is going to let me take a shower or wash the dishes so I can eat tonight, and then I'll fix it.
The bigger patch.
The replacement. We'll do the surgery here later. Point. But yeah, I think
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
I just need the shower for tonight.
Yeah, it just it's all about priorities. I think there, and like sometimes you have to be like, oh, I can't do that right this minute.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to, but I have these other commitments or these other things that have to be taken care of. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just a concept I've thought about. Sometimes it happens. I've heard of it happening in the workplace where people will work for a company for 10 years, and then maybe the boss they have over them is they don't exactly get along with, or maybe the company starts going in a direction that they don't like,
mm-hmm.
and so that employee will quit, for lack of a better word, quit or remove themselves from that company, and they might come back in a year, but then they're coming back with like a full, fresh eyes, it's a clean break, and then they come back.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah. No, that's just I just started thinking about that with all the little activities that I do in my life, and I was like, oh man, like it's almost like I need a clean break for a month or 2 months, and then like to come back with fresh eyes.
Yeah, but like
maybe that's not the right word.
No, it is. But it's like it's not like you're not doing anything. You're
right.
focusing on something else. Mm-hmm. There's like the distribution deal you're working on. So there's something else that's taking a priority.
Oh yeah.
And like you got to do the hard work first.
Yeah. You've got to do the hard work. I've talked with a lot of people, like everybody I talk to in this state, like a lot of people that I talk to nowadays, is one thing I always hear is people are like, oh, I'm so exhausted. But we're all tired.
Everybody's tired.
Everybody's tired. And then I start being like, oh, okay. Like, and then a lot of people I talk to, they're like, oh, I'm overextended,
mm-hmm.
On my time, my resources, my money, my energy. And so you start, that's just a concept I started thinking about, because I hear from so many people like, oh, I'm overextended. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm thinking maybe some of these things need to, like these activities you're doing need to be like a clean break for a little bit.
Yeah. But that is interesting. That is interesting.
And I don't know the answer, so I'm not. I
get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying. Of those people that have told you that, how many of them work? How many of them have families?
That's That's true.
How many of them have actual priorities? I don't know. I work with a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And I work with a lot of older people. There's quite a spectrum.
Yeah.
And a lot of the I call them kids. They're like in their 20s. Okay. And they're like talking about the concert that they went to, and the movie they saw, and the lake trip they took, and the beer they drank, and the
fun. Yeah.
They're tired. And they do a physical job. Don't get me wrong. They do a very physical job. But it's funny to me because I was once there. Like, life was important. I was living life to the fullest. I was doing all the fun stuff, going to the concerts, going to the lake, going to da-da-da-da-da-da. But like, I'm tired. You're tired because you stayed up till 4 a.m. and you went to work at 5.
Yep.
And you were having the time of your life, but now you got to do some work, And it's funny to me. I wasn't trying to be like scolding or anything like that.
Yeah.
I hear that I'm tired a lot, and like, yeah, so am
I. We all are.
Yeah. It's called life, and I'm sure you get it, like, because your movie stuff, like when you're filming a movie, if you don't get the movie set, like if you don't get the scene shot, I'm tired.
No.
So what?
Drive on.
Again. We're going to do it again.
We got investors behind this. I've got to deliver a product.
Yeah. And it's like, are you dead? I'm sure that you see some of that and like are just going.
Roll your eyes.
Yeah. Just like, let's go. One foot in front of the other. We're done when we're done. I at a high school, I worked on a farm. And it was sun up to sundown for a good portion of the time. And it was like, you're going to stop and eat so you don't pass out and drink some water. And like, but then we're going to finish. And when you can't see anymore, then you go home. And then tomorrow you'll do it again. It's for the season, And it was pretty cool. It was a lot of hard lessons to learn, but like, you're so much more capable of doing stuff than what you think than what you think you are. Like, if you just shut up and do it,
get the excuses out of the way.
Get the excuses out of the way. And I'm the biggest whiner. Like, I will whine and complain about life so much if I let myself go down that road.
Mm-hmm.
And just drive on.
Suck it up and drive on.
Well, and it depends. Like, what are we doing? What are you doing? Is there something to do here? Is there a project that needs done? Is there a movie to be made? Is there a class to teach? Is there? Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I can't. If I sit down and think about how tired I am, then I should probably take a nap.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And some of that, it's just maybe it could be that somebody saying, okay, I'm tired, or I'm just saying, like, or maybe the person says burned out, or on top of that too, maybe something else is like, a lot of times, like definitely recently, I'm like, oh, has this thing ran its course? Knowing when to step back from something versus, oh, has this thing ran its course? And that's probably a total nother subject.
That's a whole nother topic, right? Like, we could probably talk for another hour on that.
I'm setting up the next podcast.
Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe that's another topic.
No, that's another topic. That's another one. But it's just one of those things you start thinking about. Just like the fruit tree analogy. The fruit tree starts dropping its stuff. It doesn't have enough water to support all the fruit, so it's got to choose. Okay, self-preservation. I'll support this fruit over here and this fruit on this branch, but these other branches I can't because it's too much. Kind of like just kind of like an analogy for like what I'm going through, and I think a lot of people are going through.
Absolutely. And, sorry.
No, that was it.
One of the things that's really nice about the headphones is I can hear you completely clearly, and it's so nice because like I think, in my personal perspective, and I hope I'm right, that I interrupt you less. I hope.
I think so. Yeah.
But no, you're watering the tree analogy.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. It's really important. Because if you don't drink enough water,
you die.
Yeah, exactly. and you don't produce fruit.
I didn't even mention that, but that's
you don't produce fruit.
Yeah, and if you don't have enough nutrients in the tree's system, your fruit's bitter, and or the next year it won't blossom because it won't have the nutrients saved up because the tree didn't have enough nutrients from the previous year or spent itself too much.
So it's a selfish, like self-care.
Self-care,
right? Like you gotta take care of your priorities. You gotta take care of yourself. But it's like the old oxygen mask thing. Like when you're flying in a plane, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on the kids. And so you can stay awake and put the oxygen mask on the kids.
Yep.
You have to take care of those things so you can be a better person, a better version of you. And like the world, the people around you deserve the best version of you. Mm-hmm. And like you have people you care about that are all around you, just like I do. And you owe it to yourself and them to be the best version of you.
Yeah. See,
yeah.
Ditto.
Ditto.
Yes, agreed.
I know.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that is a high note to end on. You owe it to yourself to be the best version of you for the people around you.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Friends, thank you for sticking around. Honestly, I don't know if this is number 69. This might be 68. I got to look back. I can't remember. It's been a long week. I put in a ton of hours at work, so I apologize. If you want to reach out to us on our stuff, we have a website, theformlesspod.com. We are on Facebook. There's a Facebook group. It's public. You should join us there. There's not enough stuff going on, and we need more people on it. Formless Pod, Facebook group, Instagram at the Formless Pod, Twitter at the Formless Pod. Check us out there. We are working on something for YouTube to do a live stream chat thing, and I'll put that more information as we get it and get that finalized. Friends, it's been a joy. Thank you for being on the ride with us, and see you next week. That's gonna bug me. I screwed up the wrong number there on that episode. All right, I have to look that up. That's okay.
Yeah. That was good. When you said 69.